Station, excellent film buffs. This is Straight Shooter, and yes, I'm back again for more How I See It. It's been a little bit since my last review, but the state of the movie theaters right now is kind of in disarray, at least in LA County, where I live, because we're still, so California is calling it the purple tier. It's widespread, and we can't open movie theaters, gyms, salons, stuff like that. But hopefully that'll be remedied soon. But also, luckily, they released this movie on streaming, and even though it was in the drive-in theater, it cost about the same to rent it, with a friend, and that's what I did. So today's spoiler review will be of Bill and Ted Face the Music. Yes, we are back for more Bill and Ted. You had Excellent Adventure, which everybody knows is a classic. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which was not quite as good as the first one, but still enjoyable. And I think it's been at least 20 years since the last one. And Keanu Reeves is back as Ted. Alex Winter is back as Bill. Then you have their kids. Samara Weaving plays Bill's daughter. And somebody, I'm not sure who it is, plays Ted's daughter. And then I think you have the same ladies that play the British princesses is their wives. Ted's dad, I think the same actor. And a nice surprise as well from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. You had William Sadler, who played Death in that movie. He's back in this one as well. And a couple other nice surprises. You had Jillian Bell, which she's not a very well-known actor, but just about every one of her roles is really funny. This movie, unfortunately, is a little bit of an exception. She was kind of like flat, playing the therapist to Bill and Ted and their wives. And then you also had a funny cameo from Dave Grohl. But besides that, here's basically what happened in the movie. So the Wild Stallions have gotten older. They're failing musicians. They haven't put out a hit record in many years. They're playing weddings, they're playing elk lodges or something. And let's just say they don't have the audience they used to. I guess you can liken it to them playing a club where no one shows up is like, a band just starting out. They're trying to find their audience too. Of course, because it's the Bill and Ted universe, speaking of the universe, it's about to collapse because Bill and Ted are supposed to write the song that brings everyone into harmony, and dimensions are falling into one another, and they have to try to find the song to write. So they go through time, they try to find different versions of themselves to get ideas for the song. It doesn't end up working out. And meanwhile, the daughters are going through history to recruit different musicians to form a band so that they can play the song. Like they recruit Jimi Hendrix, Mozart, some flautist, I don't know who she is, and like a caveman drummer or something like that, which was kind of funny, but they end up in hell, and Bill and Ted go to hell to bargain with Death to get them back. They were mad at each other, basically, so they had to apologize, and, then Death was back on board to play the bass again. What ends up happening is the girls and the musicians, find a stage to play on. Bill and Ted end up saying, we don't have the song. They found a song from their future selves, like their older selves, like in a retirement home, but the flash drive got messed up, and they're like, we don't have the song. So the girls were like, well, let's just have everyone play, and let's just kind of improvise. And that's how the song happened, and everyone played, and because Bill and Ted were like, you guys got it. And yeah, of course, they play the song, the universe is in harmony again, and kind of like what happened at the end of Bogus Journey, but this time the universe was at stake. So you had more fancy effects where they went into the future and talked to the people that were in charge of the time in the future. It was more grandiose than Excellent Adventure or Bogus Journey. But here's the thing. The plot was kind of generic. There wasn't really anything new or fresh about it. It was basically rehashing first one and second one, different things about it. Yeah, it was pretty much paint by numbers. And the thing about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was that it came out at the right time. Not only was it the 80s, but the actors were teenagers. And it was easy to buy the fact that these teenagers were like dumb and didn't know much about things other than they like music and stuff like that. But it's really hard to buy the fact that they're now middle-aged. They still have their wives, they have kids, and they're able to live in houses. They're able to support their families somehow, even though they can't catch a break musically anymore. I'm not saying that I wanted like super smart versions of Bill and Ted, but at least it would have been nice if they were more aware of their surroundings and not just like, okay, we plucked them out of the 80s, and even though they're aged, they still only know what they knew back then. It just kind of struck me as like a little like non-believable, even for a comedy movie, if you get my meaning. And a lot of the jokes, they were funny back in the day, but the jokes when they're said by middle-aged, washed-out rock stars that don't know much about 5 feet in front of them, they're not as funny anymore. I think the movie was like, okay, I said earlier, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is a classic. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey wasn't quite as good, but this movie isn't even as good as the second one. So, unfortunately, there were some funny moments, okay, but it wasn't generally funny, and it wasn't excellent, you know? It was just kind of bogus, if I'm going to put it in the movie terms. But that's how I see it. I give the movie a C. I think the idea of bringing Bill and Ted back was very important. I like the fact that they were able to get a Kickstarter set up so that the movie could happen. And of course I love Keanu Reeves. And I love the fact that people came back for the movie because they felt passionate about it. But the execution wasn't all there. And it just kind of felt like they said, okay, we don't have to try and write the movie. The movie will write itself. Because the idea of them being middle-aged, trying to get their music noticed again, and, you know, their kids are as dumb as they were, but a little bit smarter. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy the movie at all. It's just not what I was hoping a new Bill and Ted would be. And I don't know how I could describe what I would have wanted it to be, but I think the way it turned out was not it. Again, that's how I see it, but on to the next review. Stay tuned. See you in a minute.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
They do get better.